Hello and welcome along to episode number 34, Women's Podcast of All Rounders. And it is going to be a blockbuster one as it is going to be Women's Asia Cup 2024. I have got an elite panel. I would first of all welcome Kalyani all the way from Chennai. So, Kalyani, last time we met, it was to discuss Meg Lanning. And today we are going to be discuss a premier tournament of Asian continent. So, how are you doing in general?
I'm doing very well. We have some untimely rain in Chennai going on since the T20 series between India and South Africa. So the weather is pleasant enough to talk cricket, and
Yeah.
it's always pleasant to talk women's cricket. So I'm so thank you for
Yeah.
asking to come back, and it's a great chance to be here again.
Yeah, so good to have you back. And making debut, I think so. It is his first ever recording on YouTube and stuff like that. That is Mazhar all the way from Chandpur, Bangladesh. That is a wonderful resource person to cover women's cricket of Bangladesh. So nice to have you, Mazhar. A warm welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you, Ahmad bhai. I am doing well. I'm excited to join with all of you guys. It's always nice to discuss
Uh,
about the cricket and more about
Yeah, likewise. And I would welcome Estelle. We talked about, I think, Sri Lanka men's cricket team during the ODI World Cup, and we had a segment on Chamari as well, because of course, why not? So a long time comeback, I would say. So Estelle, of course, featuring on along with Jarrod Kimber as well, and Morali Pod, she is editor over there. Do check out their work. So Estelle, nice to have you back.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Yeah, it's been a long time, no, and I haven't been able to join you guys for other series that you all have done, but really happy to join the others on this one.
Same. And to sign off the panelists on the recording set, there is Skin and us joining from the capital. Wonderful resource person for women's cricket. So Skin and us, thank you so much for joining. How are you doing? Or whether उधर भी बारिश है?
थैंक यू एमएस फॉर हैविंग मी जी बिल्कुल बारिश हो जाती है और फिर वापस धूप आ जाती है तो कुछ पता नहीं चलता
Okay. Estelle, to start off the podcast itself, the agenda itself, uh, let's discuss a bit of overview of the tournament itself before we have a deep dive into the squads. So, as we know, there would be a renovated stadium of Dambola, wonderful stadium that is. Sri Lanka cricket has like announced that there would be free entry for the fans. Women's cricket fan base is growing, and there is a quality sides even in the lesser ranked teams as well. So, do you see it as going to be one of the best Asia Cup? How are your overall vibes regarding this particular tournament?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting one because, as you mentioned, 8 teams coming together, right? Only 2 less than what we will see at the World Cup. So it should be
Yeah,
really exciting. But also on the conditions, I would say it's going to be very interesting to see how the teams go because from what we've seen in the most recent past at the Dambola Stadium, there's been a lot of runs being scored. Um,
oh
it
wow.
didn't it didn't feature in international cricket for a bit of time. It hosted ODIs from 2010, I believe, but had a
Yeah,
bit of a break with a few issues regarding when managements change, things like that.
yeah.
But it did host the Afghanistan series earlier this year as well, and we saw a lot of high scoring games. But most recently, part of the LPL Lanka Premier League men's tournament was held in Dambola, and I think
Yeah.
out of maybe 10 or 11 games, only one game didn't feature a score above 180. So very high
Oh wow.
scoring matches. 230 was chased in one game, 200 breached 3 or 4 times. So it'll be very interesting to see how teams go, particularly as we all realize that the T20 World Cup is coming on later in the year, where we are not
Yeah.
sure of how the conditions will be in Bangladesh. So it'll be very interesting to see whether Dambulla plays in a similar way to what we saw in the Lanka Premier League, or whether we will see
Yeah.
slower tracks. I'd be expecting a lot of runs.
Wow, that is nice to hear. Because some fans are worried about low scoring fast and whatnot. but that is an exciting update. So sticking with you, Estelle, let's discuss Sri Lanka's squads in bit of detail, and of course, the form would be touched on. Finalists last time, when the tournament was held in Bangladesh, of course, were wiped out completely by India. Uh, of course, they won the qualifier earlier in the year, the ICC T20 World Cup qualifier. Chamari is in rich form. Harshita is in rich form for past 2 years. She had a really good Asia Cup last time as well. So when do you look up on the squad itself? What are the causes of optimism and what are the fears if we look up on the Sri Lanka squad?
Yeah, as you mentioned, there are a few batters who are in form and have shown that kind of form coming into this series, right? We just had the series against Bangladesh, sorry, against the West Indies, where we saw a few other players stepping up. I mean, we've gotten accustomed to seeing Atapattu being the main focus point, but we've seen a few batters coming up. So I think the batting side is more or less settled, the top seven. It is a
Yeah,
bowling where we could see a few changes coming in. Interestingly, Inuka Ranavira and Oshadi Ranasinghe are not in this squad. So Sri Lanka have left out two of their most experienced players. In their stead, they have brought in a couple of really young players in Sachini Nisansala and Shashini Gimhani. Gimhani, in fact,
yeah,
is just 17 years of age, bowls wrist spin with both arms, and I am told she can also bat with. On both sides, so a very interesting
wow.
prospect for Sri Lanka. Yeah, and throw as well, right? So a truly ambidextrous cricketer, if we've seen anyone else like that. Sachin Nisansala is a left arm spinner, very promising. Had a good start to her career, but has had a couple of serious injuries in the last couple of years, so hasn't really featured much. So it's a bowling where we could see a bit of inexperience, because you've got the experienced players like Achini Kulasurya, Sukantika
Yeah.
Kumari, Udeshika Prabodhini, but then the ones who make up the other spots could be some inexperience. But I think overall Sri Lanka has a pretty settled squad, and they've had a lot of cricket coming into the tournament as well. So they'll be confident that they'll be able to do something. I mean, they'll be looking to do something special this time, because they haven't won an Asia Cup yet.
Yeah, yeah. So right to put out. Kalyani, moving towards you, we would give a spotlight to Indian team because, of course, but let's discuss UAE Squad first of all. A little cheeky shout out to ESHA OZA, who shares the same birthday as mine, 8th of January. So that is a nice little cheeky shout out. So I would be putting on this squad on the slides. Kalyani, stage is over to you. Have a touchdown on their squad.
Yeah.
What are the key strengths and what are the key weaknesses?
See, the thing about since the retirement of their former captain Chaya Mughal, it's something of a sort that there is a gap in experience. Isha, of course, has experience playing under Chaya, but now she's the leader of the pack. And if you just saw the T20 World Cup qualifiers, they didn't cross the line, but they did put up some fight throughout in many matches, and the match against Sri Lanka, I think, was particularly, if I look at it, it was particularly the show of what Isha Oza can achieve, and her numbers
Wow.
are extraordinary in so many sense in T20 eyes. I mean, uh, with bat and as a captain also she'll learn, but like I said, it's a top heavy side when it comes to batting. You have the
Yeah.
likes of let's say, for example, Tirtha Satish, Isha herself, Kavisha here and there, Hina someone here and there, but once that batting lineup is done, you have a many all rounders. Like your list itself shows like how many all rounders are there
Yeah.
in that side. So it sometimes comes as an inexperienced side when it goes into big moments. I mean, they had a little bit of like the T20 World Cup qualifiers. I think they did go beyond imagination in the way they fought, and I think with this they are in a pretty much difficult group where they have to play against both India and Pakistan. So it will be interesting to see how they go about it. One of the most important person, I think, from the UAE point of view is going to be Vaishnavi Mahesh, given how
Yeah,
successful she has been, and she just what I think she's 20 years of age, 2021, and still has a lot more
exactly.
to achieve. And it's a very very peculiar spinner, and goes really well, can bat also, again because there are too many of the all-rounders in that list. So
Yeah,
it is, like I said, it's a gap in experience between the most experienced players and the youngest players. So that balance, it's something they'll have to look up to whenever it comes to the squad selection. And I think because they are playing against the teams like India and Pakistan, it's a great challenge for them to have, thinking
yeah.
about where they can go from there. And I remember speaking with, I think it was Chaya ma'am, 2 years ago. She said the first and foremost goal for us is to make it to the World Cup. And I think they were little bit, they're getting closer with each tournament, and there is a
Yeah.
chance this is the tournament where they can test themselves against some of the best sides in the continent.
All right. Wonderful to have those thoughts. And I think our channel name is All Rounders Den. We can fairly say Malaysia is the All Rounders Den as well, because the list itself speaks for themselves. Okay, Mazhar, it is your time to shine and rise. Bangladesh, of course, were knocked out, you can say, by rain in last tournament. Of course, Thailand went on to play semi-finals. There are nine different players if we compare the squad of 2022 Asia Cup and 2024 Asia Cup. Farjana is in good form, Mushida is in good form, Rabia is showing her prowess. So, if we look up on the Bangladesh squad, what are your causes of optimism, and where do you think Bangladesh is going to lack that cutting edge?
As I'm saying, Bangladesh is still now in this tournament. They don't have a settled batting lineup or bowling lineup. Also, we have a couple of experienced players coming back. Like Jumana will be directly into the 11. Jahanara will be directly into the 11. So there will be two new faces who could be potential debutant. I don't think they will make the first two matches in the tournament, as we have Dilara and Mushida Khan coming back from a very good BPL this year. They both scored over 450 runs. They had a decent season. But we have to worry about Nigar Sultana's form also. She had a bad tournament this time. But I
Yeah,
think luckily we are not in a tough group. We have got
yeah.
Thailand and Malaysia. So bearing from Sri Lanka, we would have like to have two good games, I think.
All right. Okay, moving towards Pakistan. So, Skina, first of all, I think it is important to mention it is going to be first major tournament after the retirement of Bismah Maroof. Shout out to her. It is going to be her birthday month as well, 18th of July, if I'm not mistaken. So, happy birthday to Bismah in advance. Of course, a living legend and icon of the this tournament as well in cricket. So Skinner, because that itself links towards our batting conundrum. There are like three top order batters, and if I'm not mistaken, we have chosen seven middle order options if we include the likes of Tuba and Fatma Sana as well. And then moving on towards bowlers, there are two slow left arm bowlers, one off break, two leg breaks, and three paces. So how does the overall balance of the squad look like? We have gone for the variety. Do you think it is going to be of enough quality to tackle the big teams like of India, or if we move into the semi-finals when we play against Sri Lanka, supposedly? So, yeah, have your thoughts on the Pakistan squad.
Okay, so first of all, as you mentioned, Kay, this is going to be the first tournament after Bismar's retirement, and we have seen in the recent past, Kay, especially if we talk about the big matches like Pakistan versus India, तो हम उस पे भी हम ये देखते हैं कि she was relatively doing well other in comparison to the other batters. She was taking more responsibility. uh, लेकिन अगर ऑब्वियसली उस चीज़ का एक इम्पैक्ट आएगा, लेकिन मेरा ख्याल है कि उनकी रिटायरमेंट के अलावा जो इस टाइम पाकिस्तान टीम के अंदर जो ओवरऑल चेंजेस हुई हैं, जिसमें कोचेस की पूरी टीम चेंज हो चुकी हुई है, सो आई थिंक उसका भी एक बहुत बड़ा इम्पैक्ट रहेगा इसके अंदर। और अगर हम स्पेसिफिकली स्क्वाड की बात करते हैं, तो आई थिंक बॉलिंग यूनिट इज़ प्रीटी मच सेटल्ड। आपके पास जो बॉलिंग के ऑप्शंस हैं, आपके पास वैरायटी मौजूद है, यू कैन पिक वन फ्रॉम ईच ग्रुप एक्चुअली, और आप फिर भी अपना जो है बॉलिंग यूनिट बना लोगे। तो आई थिंक कि बॉलिंग की might not be a concern. Obviously, as
Yeah,
Estelle was talking, they are batting. It feels like ज़्यादा जो है वो it's going to be about batting. High scoring matches होंगे. So yeah, that could be something. But other than that, I feel like it's the batting unit of ours that's going to be a major concern. Because if you see at the batting orders of our in recent matches, we were going
yeah,
with different order in every match. And even if you look at this squad, you will feel like we are going to see a new composition of players at the top. uh,
yeah,
I feel like when you look at the squad, one of the Iram or Maima will be in the playing 11, and then you will have to
yeah,
see where they will put them. Like whether Maima will bat at the in top four, or if Iram is coming in, then whether she will bat in at the fourth number or at the sixth number. So these are kind of the questions that needs to be answered, or and it, we will see. I think this is something that we can only like उसके ऊपर हम कुछ अभी कह नहीं सकते कि we will see कि how the management will go on about it, whether
yeah,
they will go with the more settled top three with Gul and Sidra and Muniba, or will they go with again Muniba will be opening. So we don't know that. So this is
yeah,
something that is a point of concern, because all these players are good in their own self, but whether how we'll put them in the order and whether they will be able to complement each other, is that is a question, and that will be the if we were able to find the answer of that, we will be able to like go on a good in this tournament. But if we mess this up, then obviously.
Yeah, wonderful. Of course, we would be expanding on the squads a bit more in the segment moving forward. So I think it is my turn to cover a few squads. I would be just scamming them through. First of all, I would like to touch on the Thailand. I have mentioned it before. They played the semi-final in last Asia Cup. They were semi-finalists in ACC Women's Premier Cup earlier in the year. I think it was in February. They choked the semi-final. I was really gutted for the reason because I have experience of living 18 months for my master's there. So I have like it is my second home. I would say my second team in the tournament as well. Uh, Okay, few shoutouts to some players. There is Nataya Buchatham. She is the only member in the active squad, which was in the squad of their original team, like when it was found back in 2006, back in 2007. Shout out to their coach. He has worked with Harmanpreet Kaur during 2016 to 2018 before taking up the role of Thailand. So, and his name being Harshal Pathak. He's from Maharashtra. Moving forward, I would touch down on their form. Since 2022 Asia Cup, they like afterwards, not including the record of 2022 Asia Cup, they have played 21 T20Is, have won 14 games, lost six, and no result won. They won the quadrangular series, including Japan and Hong Kong. They won the Southeast Asian Games as well. They were flawless. Coming towards the squad itself, that was just an overview of their form and overall outlook of the Thailand cricket. Coming towards the squad, I think the player to watch out if it is going to be their opener and is a really good solid wicket keeper as well. That is Nanapat Koncharonkai. We all know about left arm magic from Thipacha Puthawang. I think the main their strength lies around their top order batter heavy, and there has been like a conundrum with their mm, better as well. She was suspended in the training. Same incident has happened with Nepal, I would say. I would touch them down on the later. Solipon Lomi is a really good leg spin bowler. I think how do they manage their death over bowling? That is where they struggle, and especially why they collapse or they struggle to chase even low targets Like in qualifiers, no, sorry, Women's Premier Cup, they had to chase down 67 or 68. They couldn't manage to. Whenever their top order like failed early, their like middle order or late order just don't have that experience, I would say. But it would be an interesting side to follow, especially their fielding. It is going to be one of the best fielding sides. Their mantra is aggressive on the field and positive off the field, and just to look out for their gestures after each match, whether they lose, whether they win, or whatever, they will bow down to the field just as a gesture of gratitude. So it is just a norm. I just wanted to have few shout outs. So Kalyani, I would switch up to the mic to you. Now it is a discuss to time to discuss defending champions, of course, that are India. First of all, how good is Samriti Mandana? Before we go further into the squad.
Yeah, I mean, if you have seen her, like there was one of the questions asked to her when she came for the press conference after the third T20I, that she has been harsh on herself in many ways before, talking about how she was not consistent. And if this series
Yeah,
was any indication, she was at her consistent base throughout the formats. And it felt like what what she wanted from herself in these matches, to gain out of these matches, came up. But I also want to give a big shout out to Pooja Vastrakar, who has been equally consistent, like
yeah,
Smriti.
yeah,
Like Smriti was consistent with the bat in all three formats. Pooja was consistent with the ball, despite not getting many wickets. I think she got only one wicket in the test match, but she was consistent. And when you have these two kind of players who are consistent enough, there is something, especially in the World Cup year, especially in the conditions that are going to be similar to what they'll get in Bangladesh. It was just
yeah,
amazing to watch. And especially about Smriti, I'll say this, that all the work that has gone into being that consistent was on display in the series against South Africa. And another thing about Indian squad is that if you look at what they have given out as a squad, I don't think with touchwood there are no any injury changes. But if this looks like the squad they might want to put forward for the World Cup, because it does look like a well balanced side. You have the likes of, even despite her form being up and down, you have Shafali Verma and Smriti Mandhana opening. Then you have the number three question has been the biggest question right now for Indian women's cricket team, whether they should continue with Dayalan Hemalata, or with Jemima Rodriguez coming at 5. But the thing is that we didn't get those answers in the the T20I series that happened in Chennai, because first match Hema did play, but the next two matches there was a washout, and then India won without losing a wicket. So
yeah,
that's still a question. I think they'll get the opportunity to iron out those issues in whenever uh, the experiment. I don't think they'll have experiments, but whenever the Asia Cup begins. Jemima at 5. Richa Ghosh also didn't play two matches because of recovering from the concussion. Uma Chetri
yeah,
was there in place of her, but she'll be back, I think, for the Asia Cup. And she has proved again and again and what kind of an asset, she is for this Indian lineup, being so young and still having those audacious shots. I mean, she's been wonderful to watch in, again, in all formats. I think with this trio of the pacers in Pooja Vastrakar, Arundhati Reddy, and Renuka Singh Thakur, I think if
yeah,
people who have seen Arundhati Reddy in WPL would agree that she is not, I would not say a find of the tournament. She has already made her T20I
yeah,
debut back in
yeah, yeah,
2020. She was the line, and then what Pooja, Arundhati, and Renuka offer as a unit. I know with the conditions going on, only the chances that only two of them will play in one playing
yeah,
11. But I think with Asha, Shriyanka Patil, and Radha Yadav. The spin unit also looks settled. I think the biggest problem, if there is any for India right now, is the fielding, and it was on display in the first T20 that
Yeah, yeah.
at almost I think 5 catches were dropped, and at this level from team like India, it's I think cannot give excuses for anything. And they were clear in the chats after the matches that there are no excuses, they just need to do better. But overall, if the series against South Africa was any indication, India would want to utilize Asia Cup as ironing out more issues before getting into the World Cup, and that's what you can finally boil down to from the squad that they have put out.
All right. And on catching side, I just had flashbacks from WPL as well. Of course, foreigner fielder had their fair share of chunks, but Indian players played a major chunk of it. So, yes, there is a cause of concern over there. Moving towards Malaysia. Okay, I will be taking up that segment. I want to start with the story for their captain, that is Winifred Duraisingam. She is nicknamed as Winnie. So there is a story about a school class ongoing some like 9 or 10 years ago. So students are there in the class, but teacher hasn't arrived. So when after a few minutes, students were anxious and they asked the principal and staff, "Where is our teacher?" So it was a class of geography subject, and then they were told that your teacher is playing a domestic level tournament. They went back to their homes, of course, and they went on to Google her name, and it was Winifred Duraisingam. So she is basically a teacher, and now she is a coach as well in her off season. So basically, she is an active bowler, active coach, active scout, and whatnot. Moving on, their players in form are Mess Elisa. You can see in the better side of things. Elsa Hunter, she is an Australian Malaysia. Like she is a dual national, I would say. Uh, she is in this form, like I'm talking about Women's Premier Cup held earlier in the year. And interesting fact that is they have played 34 matches since 2022. It is highest from the associate, or you can say lower ranked teams by any nation. And then they have 23 matches as on the winning side, 8 matches on the losing side, and 3 are left on the not result. Uh, their key strengths and the players to watch out for if anyone doesn't follow their cricket as much are going to be their all-rounders named as Mahira Izzati and Aina Hamiza, both with a bat and with a ball. They are going to be equally good. The wicket keepers, I think, from lower ranked teams, they have got the best wicket keeping combo. Whether they go with a Van Julia, like she is experienced, like 35 years old, or Aina Najwa, she is like 20 or 21 years old. They have at times played like Women's Premier Cup. I was checking their matches out there. Like they split it out. I would say 3 matches were played by Van Julia, like Van Julia and Aina Najwa both, and in other two, like in the knockouts, they went with more experienced one. That was Van Julia. Bowling lacks a bit apart from Aisha Elisa. That she is one of the best wicket time, like all time table topper. Dhansuri Mohanan, her seamers are going to be really effective. She has wobble seam as well. Do look out for her wobble seam because it is a rare commodity to have. Apart from that, that is where they are going to struggle. Noor Izzatul Siafika had a really good tournament. So I think if they muster up good enough runs like 130, 135, then they can have a really good chance to defend. But having said it, SL has talked that the pitches are going to be on higher side. So I think that barometer has to be gone up to 150, considering batters are their main strength. So yeah, I think that is how they're like I have mentioned, 7 or 8 players. They form their core players. Moving towards Nepal before we open up the discussion. Yeah, I think so. Nepal slide is here. So I would start with their XI first of all, before I put out the side stories because the audience might not be interested that much. Their openers are Kavita Kumar. She has played 47 T20I matches. Sita Rana, she is the only member present from 2007 original squad when the Nepalese women cricket, another cricketer like Sodaringam from Malaysia and Buchatham from Thailand. Moving forward, Indo Burma is in rich form. She has a really good Women's Premier Cup as well. Rubina Chetri, I am going to talk about her a lot and lot more because she blew away Maldives in Women's Premier Cup. She made 118 not out at the strike rate of 152. So she had a really good blinder of tournament. She hit six sixes in the tournament. Nobody hit more than two sixes in that particular tournament. So she has got that really good muscles, but she is equally good with her bowling. The player to watch out, I would say, is Pooja Mahato. Sorry if I'm not pronunciating their names right. She's a right medium bowler and right-handed batter as well. She had really good cameos, two really good cameos in Women's Premier Cup. Her strike rate was 153 at the end of the tournament. She is like in the ilk of Alia Riaz, you can say, for the Pakistan, like late order finisher, you can say. And bowling wise, she had a really good economy as a right medium. Sita Rana, again, I am gonna mention, like in Pakistan, I see Tasmia Rubab as an exciting prospect because in yes, Sri Lanka have left-handed pacers. India have as well, uh, but in lower ranked teams, it is a rare commodity, and Sita Rana balls up front as well, balls up front, bats up front as well. So that is where their main strength lies. They bat really deep, like at number 8, at number 9, they can score 20, 15 runs. But their problem is going to be their, I would say, bowlers. A cheeky shout out to Apsari Begum. She had a riot, a fuss with her manager on 5th of July, and she was suspended afterwards after having a blinder of tournament in Women's Premier Cup. She is the top run scorer in the last 18 months as well. So for disciplinary issues, she has been sidelined. So it is kind of what if case. Like if Apsari Begum had been in their lineup, their totals would have gone. I would have expected 160, but let's see how they go out with that. So I think a lot of academic discussions, I would say, done. Let's open up the discussion. So Sakina, I want to throw mic towards you. You have something to ask Estelle about Sri Lanka talent pool. And Estelle, I would back it up with Sri Lankan pacers because they're aging, but I would have Sakina mic first. So Sakina, over to you.
Yeah, I was just other day wondering as to okay, we are seeing Sri Lanka batters stepping up and scoring runs and taking the charge. But what went behind? Okay, we can understand that they were grinding for a lot of time, and now we are seeing those results. So, did Sri Lanka cricket made some changes in the domestic system, or this was just about time that was about to happen, and now we are seeing it happening. And other than that, whether Sri Lanka's player pool, where it stands right now, like once Chamari when we when the a bit of fallout will happen in the forms of the players, whether this player
Yeah.
pool will be able to replace those players or not.
Yeah, first of all, on the batting, I think there are two things that I can think of. First of all, is that Sri Lanka have been playing really consistently. They've been getting tours every few months as opposed to not doing so. I mean, I think most of you would know during COVID, Sri Lanka didn't play for almost 2 years, right? No international cricket, no domestic cricket. Following that period of time, they've had series consistently happening. And I don't know whether it's a blessing or not, but the fact that there is not a lot of depth meant that the same players got a lot of opportunities. So if you look at Harshita Samaravikrama, Kavisha Dilhari, Anushka Sanjeevani, Nilakshi De Silva, um, they are all players who have consistently been in the team despite periods where they haven't made a lot of runs. Like all those names I mentioned, if you go and look at their overall records, they are not great, right? Probably strike rates at 70, 80, not that good of an average. But if you look at their records over the last year, there's been a massive improvement. So I think the fact
Yeah.
that there was no depth meant that more the same people got lots of opportunities, and that has allowed them to kind of get accustomed to international cricket and perform well. On the domestic competitions, there has been a drive to have more provincial based competition. So, um, where you have the best players from your club teams coming together for um, provincial tournaments. That there has been a drive. There has been a drive to establish more club teams, so that you have the game accessible to a lot more players. That is kind of to build that depth that I said was lacking. So few things that have come that way. I think Mahela Jayawardene, Tom Modi were kind of put in charge of Sri Lanka cricket a few years ago, where
Yeah.
they were, working with the systems with both the men's and women's cricket. And I think a few of those things are bearing fruit now. And I think one more thing, if I can say, is that the appointment of Champaka Ramanayaka as coach has had a massive impact on the mindset of players, and that is something that each one of them talks about. Particularly Atapattu, she's been very vocal about how much of an impact he has made in the team environment, right? And we are possibly seeing that. I mean, if I give you a perspective of Sri Lanka cricket as a whole, I would say talent is never lacking, right? Whether it's the men's team or the women's team,
Yeah.
talent is not really the issue. You will find talent all over the island, but it's beyond that that has become an issue with the men's team, whether they can match up to the skill sets of other top nations, things like that. With the women's team, where the gaps are slightly smaller, um,
Yeah.
it is about mindset and whether they believe they can go and compete, and I think that belief has been given to them as well. um, and coming to Sakina's second question, Atapattu has hinted about her retirement for a few months now. I am
Yeah.
unsure whether
She's
it will
busy
happen.
now.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
unsure
Yeah.
whether it'll happen after um, this T20 World Cup, or whether she will hang around
Yeah.
until the 50 over World Cup. We aren't really sure. From her point of view, I think she's carried the team for so long. It can't be easy. And I think she's also, look, she's a once in a generation player, right? Even globally, if you look at,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
one of the best batters in the world. So you're not going to get that type of player immediately to replace her. But I think what she's given the team is that taste of success and kind of the confidence that they can do things. And if we looked at the team at the last World Cup, it was a very aging squad. Like you had a lot of players over 35. Fielding was a bit sloppy, all of that. But they've slowly integrated a few more young players. Like if you look at the squad, you've got players like Kavya Kavindi, is a promising fast bowler. The two spinners that I mentioned are very good in the field, very young. So she's kind of slowly and gradually put together a squad which could, if things go well, be feature for Sri Lanka for the next 10 years, because many of them are in their early 20s, right? So if and when she retires eventually, obviously Sri Lanka will miss her. The world game will miss her, I would say. But Sri Lanka are in a much better place than they were pre-COVID, I would say, even without her, to be a competitive team amongst the top nations.
Okay. If I may ask, around the paces, so you have got Inoshi, she is 37 years old, Achini Kulasurya, she is 34 years old, Udishika, she is 38, and Sugandhika Kumari, okay, she is not a pacer. Uh, so, do you have concerns that they have stick with them for too long, or you are like sound with it, fair with it, that it is going to be the last few shouts at the tournament? So, is it a cause of concern because with a declining age and their performances have been patchy, I would say. So, how do you feel about that talent pool in the domestic as well and on the national level?
Yeah, there are a few promising youngsters coming through. I think Sri Lanka's problem is they don't have that middle generation, in the sense that you have like a 32 plus generation that features very heavily, and then you have a lot of players who are under the age of 26, right? So that middle age group is the one that is kind of missing, and that is very glaringly visible in the bowling department, as you mentioned, particularly in the pace bowling, where you have Achinikula Surya and Udeshika Prabodhini like being the main fast bowlers, um, who have featured for Sri Lanka. But I do think that once we complete these two upcoming World Cups, the T20 World Cup this year and the 50 over next year, then there is a bit of a period where they will need to rebuild. I'm not sure. I mean, I thought Udeshika Prabodhini would retire at the 2020 World Cup, but she's still here 4 years later, right? So, you never know. She could feature further on. I mean, if she's fit enough and if she's performing, there's no reason why she should be left out. But there are a couple of promising youngsters. Kavya Kavind is definitely one. There are a couple of under 19 players actually who were picked for the West Indies series. Unfortunately, didn't feature in the team, but um, I can't say that you can point that they've stuck with them for too long. I think it's been based on performance and wanting to keep a bit of stability in the team. Like I mentioned before, there's been that lack of depth also around the game, but that is gradually getting better. So I think following the World Cup next year, we should see somewhat of a transitional period for Sri Lanka.
Mazhar, Bangladesh has recalled Jahara recently. So, what do you think is whether it was a good decision to call her back, or like the, does it make sense to like okay, or you think they needed her right now?
Well, it's good to have Jahanara Alam back as she had a great domestic season this time. She picked up 25 wickets in 9 innings, which was the highest in recently concluded 50 overs DPL tournament. Where the recent regulars of T20 team, Fariha Krishna and Maroof both picked up almost one match on wicket like they at that ratio. So also Maroof is having a tough season this year in international arena. She have picked 5 or 6 wickets in 8 T20 matches so far. So it's good to have Jahanara back as the other players not been doing so well recently. And Jahanara also it seems like she has some new variations added into her stock. And she worked so hard in the last 8 or 9 months, and that paid off to her nicely. I think it's a good introduction to us.
All right, and Mother, for our audience, there are few fantasy games ongoing as well. For them as well, would you like to put the most probable or your own favorite XI to kick off your tournament?
Can I hear you again?
Yeah, I am asking about most probable 11 of Bangladesh to kick off the tournament. In your own opinion, as well, you can take your bias into it as well.
The most probable 11 will be the opening is set Dilara Tola and Murshida Khatun. At number 3, it will Ruby Haidar Jilik will come in. And at number 4, there is Captain Fantastic Nigar Sultana Jyoti. At 5, India says Ritu Moni has played, but now as Rumana is now in the team, she will play at 5. And at 6, there is Shorna. And I would like to pick either of Ritu Moni or Shorifa, as if we need one more medium player as 6 bowling option, either Shorifa or Ritu, and the rest will be Nahida, Rabia, Marufa, and Jahanara. And the two debutants and Sultana will be the benched one.
The biggest threat, like team wise, be it Sri Lanka, be it Pakistan, which side do you think as the most threatening side to India? And regarding the spinners, how many would you be picking in your lineup and who would they be?
See, the threat wise, it's like on your it's the most fickle of all the formats. So on your day, anyone can beat any team. And I'm not saying this as something a politically correct answer or anything, but this is the situation of the women's game right now, that on any day any team can beat. I mean, if you have to look at the history of one year, exactly in the one last year, a lot many surprises have happened, and lot many teams have come up with the wins that nobody would have thought will happen. But those who follow the game know how it's going to happen. But yeah, so I would suggest that on their day any team can beat any team, not just in the Asia Cup but in the World Cup as well. And given how the teams are stacked, I hope we see a lot of surprises in the tournament. And the second question about spinners is that, see, India wants to have the balance of how they want to approach these games. And I would think, given how much the role Deepti Sharma plays in this playing 11 for India is the most vital one, because she gives you, even when she's not batting, as a bowler, whenever she comes up in these T20s that happened, she came after the power play. So you have Sajivan Sajna bowling in the power play. You have Shranka Patil also sometimes bowling in the power play. So the thing is that the number of spinners that India can have in the playing 11 is that traditionally you won't look at Sajna and say that, I mean, she has done exceptionally well in the domestic. That's the wrong example. But Shafali Verma, you won't expect her to bowl. But if the time comes, Shafali Verma can also bowl a spin. You must have seen, I think Mazhar must have seen in the previous Bangladesh series where even Jemima Rodriguez also bowled. So the thing with India is that those who can ball the spin, if the time needs to be there. I mean, Harmanpreet Kaur also can roll her arm, so it's not the number. It's about how they balance the team, because otherwise also they have the likes of, let's say, Shafali Verma and Jamima Rodriguez and even Harmanpreet Kaur, who can ball and ball those impact overs. The bigger thing, I think, from Indian point of view, is how they balance the playing 11. And the only reason is that their middle order is not been tested in the recent times. In the series against South Africa, it was all top heavy. Smriti was consistent. Even Jemima Rodriguez, she batted at 5, and only their batting lineup has been tested. So something that has to happen is that somehow, somewhere before the World Cup, the lower middle order and lower order needs to have that kind of match experience getting into the World Cup. Because one bad game for the top order, and the thing that has been with the Indian team is that they tend to collapse in the pressure situations. One of the reasons is that the top order is performed well in the past, but that middle order and lower middle order needs to come up with the solutions on the go. And if they don't get this kind of, I mean, they've had dominating wins, no doubt about that. It is really good to see. It is really good to see them dominate in front of the crowd, no doubt about that. But at the same time, that that match practice needs to be there for the middle order and lower middle order. And if I may, I just have one question to Mazhar and Estelle combined. Is this, like, we both can answer this question? Is that we've been talking about how spin will work in both conditions, like how it will happen. But given how we've seen how probably Pooja bowled in Bangladesh conditions, or even someone like Tyla Walemik bowled in for Australia in Bangladesh conditions, this is more of a World Cup related question, which I want to understand. Do we see that pacers are equally going to be important in both, in Sri Lankan conditions as well? No matter how many overs they ball, but those are going to be impact overs in both, like in Sri Lanka for Asia Cup and Bangladesh for T20 World Cup as well. Estelle, if you can start.
Yeah, I think you've kind of got into a really important topic, because I do think that's going to be important. A lot of people are thinking that, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watching this will be surprised at how I explain the conditions in Dabula, because you expect slow and low pitches, pitches with a bit of grip. And even India, I think they played there when they toured Sri Lanka last, right? The Indian women's team, when they were here for the ODIs and T20s in 2020 or 2021, they did play in double, and it wasn't this high scoring, right? It was a lot slower, but what we've seen over the last year or so is very, very high scoring games. It could have that the boundaries are also brought in, I think, so that is also an impact. So fast bowlers will have a massive role to play, in my opinion, because if you look at the Sri Lankan team, for many years they featured only one quick in their team, right? They only had Udeshika Prabodhini. They didn't bother with other quicks. But as conditions have changed, they've also included Achinikula Surya, sometimes Kavya Kavindi plays. They can play Ama Kanchana as an all-round option who also bowls pace, right? So I think it's going to be massively important, particularly if the pitches are going to be flatter. I don't know what the conditions are in Bangladesh, but I've seen a lot of domestic high scoring games there as well. So I think that's going to be something very important to keep an eye on, because it's not going to be conditions that you necessarily think are like stereotypical of that region.
So, Mazhar, if you can open up some about the question asked again.
Well, the Australia series was in Dhaka, Mirpur, and the India series was in Sylhet. Those are the two venues for the T20 World Cup also. We have already seen how those pitches behave, and I think the spin will be most crucial for this T20 World Cup. Also, Kalyani said about Tyler Bliming or the likes of Pooja Bhastrokar, who pull their length back to get some extra bounce or something like that. And that helps them. I think the likes of those players will get advantage in those conditions. And also, most of the team will play one pacer regularly, and like Bangladesh, they play Ritumani as part time. That will be the combination I would like to go. Also, the most of the pitches will behave spins, and Estelle said about domestic high scoring games. Recently concluded DPL 50 format. There is a lot of high scoring games, but the last NCL, the T20 format tournament, didn't have much of high scoring games. 130 or 145 scores there was. So spin will be the crucial, and this is not going to play big mark in this World Cup. I think.
All right. So, Skina, let's wind up this segment with Pakistan Probable 11, and having heard from Estelle that it is rather going to be batter friendly in a way, and yes, she has talked about the role of paces. So, I do really want to touch down upon the possible inclusion of Tasmia, because different dimension for the batters to tackle off. Of course, it would be like premature move, you can say, to include her as early as India. I'm not like advocating that move, but later into the tournament, you can give her a go in my likings. But I'm interested to know about your probable 11, and if they are going to be batters friendly. I think Gul Firoza might not make cut into your final 11 as well. So, how would you make up your probable 11, favor 11 for the tournament to kick off? I would say.
Right, as you mentioned, Ahmed, that Tasmia might not be the start in the starting 11 against India, but she definitely deserve a chance later on when we face UAE or Nepal. So I would not put her in the first 11, but I will definitely give her a go in the second match or or a third match. So when we talk about playing 11, I think the bowling unit is pretty settled. We will go with Fatma, Diana, Nida. Sadia, and then I will go with Tuba instead of Nashra. So we have those five players settled, and then we have Najiha, because I don't like when Muniba is keeping. It's just I feel like it's a bit of pressure on her, and and Najiha is better at her job. So I think I will go with. I think we all agree with the thing. We need to go with Najiha there. After that, we have Alias and Sidra. Like sure starters in the 11. So the main question will definitely come between Iram, Umaima, and Gul, whether which two of those will be in the 11. So I think if it's a betting friendly wicket, they will feel like it to go with Iram Javed, as she can clear the boundary on the will. We have talked about it in the past. She has that capacity. Yeah, she also has that capacity to go into in her own head and just dot up everything. I feel like if this is the case, then they might want to go with the Iram, and then we have Umaima and Gul. So the thing with Umaima is that she can be an all-rounder, and if we are looking at the wicket where batters is a batting friendly wicket, we might want to have another bowler in the team. If anyone is having a really bad day, to give a cushion there, because we don't have a lot of all-rounder when it comes to the top order batters. Uh, we like okay, Alia can ball, but she's a pacer. So, and we are not relatively great with using pacing all rounders. So I feel like they will go with Umaima, and yeah, I think Umaima and Iram yeah, will be starting in the 11. But I won't mind if they choose to go with Gulferoza as well, because that will give them a cushion, like, from the top order, as we will see then Muniba batting at the number 3. And we have talked about it in the past that okay, if you are making a call, number 3 is a relatively tricky position to bat. At times you have to like just go on the pitch and then start hitting, and at times you have to uh, uh, be there and just to strike rotate कर करके आपको मैच चलाना होता है, because with the team like Pakistan, where collapse can happen at any time, we give wickets free with each wicket. So that position is a bit tricky. So we have talked about in the past, if we are giving Muniba this dead position, then we will have to consistently give her that position to bat on, to get a hold on of it. So yeah, I think I won't mind if they start with Gul, but I feel like they will start.
So Smriti, of course, that will be my Smriti and Harshita. And number 3, again, another, I think, kind of a player I want to see do better, and that is Muniba Ali. I know wicket keeping, like Sakina rightly mentioned, that the wicket keeping must be something. There's something here and there, but I think she brings out that kind of as the opener also. Here, look at me. I've taken up 2 left-hander openers as a top seed, which clearly shows my bias towards the left-handers. But here it is, and yeah, I mean, I think those 3 players, I think, will do really well. And I think apart from Smriti, these 2 players, they play such a role in their squads that them doing well is more or less, especially with Harshita, the position that she bats in is clearly very important for her side. So those 3 could be. I'm not very good at prediction. Let me just say this, but yeah, I think those 3 will be amongst the runs in this Asia Cup. And with wickets, again, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it's either going to be Radha Yadav and Pooja Vastrakar, because the way I've seen them, I think I didn't mention this about Pooja Vastrakar when I was talking, is that her bowling reminded me of Talia Magra said about her during the test matches, that they were robotic lengths, that she's hitting the spot again and again, same spot. To do that in a test match is one thing, but to do that in white ball in the format that is the most fickle of all of them, it is just exceptional to see. She's having really good time bowling and she's particularly enjoying it. Could be a buyer about team pacer, but I cannot go past Pooja Vastrakar in that. And one person I want to ball more, and this is why I'm going to put it out there, is I want Alia Riaz to ball more. Because it needs to happen. She needs to ball more in every format that she is playing. It's too good a bowler to not ball in these kind of conditions. So that could be there. And I'm going to watch out for Vaishnavi Mahesh. She's such a talented bowler. These are the conditions she'll make the most of. So again, it's just a thing that I, again, like if anyone comes back, like what kind of prediction these are, not very good at them, have never done them, but like these are the people I want to, like, you want every single women's cricketer.
Past Smriti Mandana as someone who's likely to get a lot of runs, particularly because of the form she's been in of late, right? Like as Kalyani mentioned, she's been critical of herself when it comes to consistency, but we've seen her being really consistent over the last month or so. So I would think it's very difficult to look past her. Um, Atapattu is another one who's been in, I mean, it seems like she's been in a purple patch for 2 years, has been scoring plenty of runs. Those would be the two obvious ones, but my wild card guess would be someone like Vishmi Gunaratna, who's actually grown in a lot of confidence over the last year or so. She has been known to be a really slow starter. That's been her biggest issue, but over the last couple of series, we've seen her kind of pick up a bit of the slack from Atapattu and try to go after the bowlers. I think it's very much a confidence issue, particularly when she's facing lower ranked teams where she feels confident enough to go after the bowling and take on those feelers in the infield. So she could be, I would say, a wild card guess as one of the top run scorers. Bowlers, um, I don't know. I think Asha Shobana is going to have a massive impact because you don't see a lot of good wrist spinners in the women's game at the moment. Um, and like I mentioned, there's not going to be, I don't expect there to be a huge amount of spin, but just because she's a wrist spinner, she'll be able to extract whatever type of spin is available, right? So I would think that she will have a massive impact. The Sri Lankan bowlers aren't really wicket takers. There are a lot of containment options, so it's very difficult to look at them as wicket takers. Shona Akhtar might be someone we look at. She hasn't really had that much of a great run in, but she's one of those players, right, who's exciting to watch, can bowl in all phases of the game. So those two I would say are my two guesses for run scorers and
Ever, you know how much I hate to predict things, because whenever I say something that is going, this is how it's about to go, it always goes the polar opposite side. So I'm just going to name all Indian players because I want new champion. Sorry, Kalyan. So I'll just name okay. Top run scorer Smriti Mandhana, wicket taker Pooja, and I feel like if Smriti, on a serious note, I feel like if Smriti goes into a good in her zone and score runs, so there's nothing that will stop her from taking play of the tournament.
That is very last segment. That is to pick the finalist and the winner. Skinner sticking with you, then Estelle, and then Kalyani.
Okay, finalist. Obviously, India will be playing final. There is no question, but I think the question will come between Pakistan and Sri Lanka again. Uh, because I'm not sure. Obviously, it depends how Bangladesh fare, but I feel like it's going to be between Pakistan and Sri Lanka. So I'll just go with my previous statement that whatever I'm going to say, everything will go in opposite directions. So I'm just going to say go with Sri Lanka, and then obviously India as a winner.
difficult, like I mentioned, to look past India. I think this is probably the strongest they've been in 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 international cricket, right? We haven't seen in previous Asia Cups there were weaknesses that teams could exploit, but it just looks like one of the top contenders even at the World Cup right now. So difficult to go past them. Although Bangladesh is the only side that has beaten them in Asia Cups, right? So if they do come up against them in a semi-final, things could go either way. But I will go with India Sri Lanka final, and I will say Sri Lanka will win the final if they chase. If they chase only.
I love so many asterisks Astellas photos, like this and then this and then this. I just love it. Just shows how entirely opposite we are. Like she is good at these predictions and I'm just not there. So I'm gonna say again it's the same repeat of last time's final. And I think India is going to win it again. And but
That signs out. Unlucky to have, I would say, Mazhar dropping out. Zoa was feeling unwell. I know we have put out the poster. Zoa was there, but yeah, she was feeling unwell, so she had to drop out. And a plug from Iman in different segments would be there accordingly. So yeah, on that note, good luck to all the teams participating, and the best of luck to my Pakistan. So on that note, thank you, Kalyani, thank you, Estelle, thank you, Skina, thank you, Iman, and thank you, Mother. Goodbye and all the best.